Can we please get rid of the homebody aesthetic? I'm tired of it. It's growing in popularity. Everybody wants to be a homebody. Oh, I'd rather be at home. I'm a homebody. Oh, I'm not like that. I don't like going outside. Can we get rid of it? It's literally crippling our society, and I'm going to tell you why. First, what is a homebody? By definition, a homebody is a person who likes to stay at home, especially one who is perceived as unadventurous. Essentially, somebody just like staying in the house. And it's actually destroying our society because at record-breaking numbers, people are inside the house. And not only are they inside the house, they are isolated by themselves. But let me give you some statistics on that one. So this is the annual daily average in minutes from 2003 to 2019. So it obviously has gotten worse since then. If you see here, it says in 2003, the average minute someone was socially isolated was 285. Now it is 335. And I want to say this is 2019, so it definitely has grown since then. Friends' social engagement on a day-to-day basis was about 60 minutes, about an hour. Now it's went down to 20 minutes, and it's even lower considering that it is 2024. This was 5 years ago. Then we have the household family engagement, which has went down. We have other different kinds of social engagement, which went down. So why does engagement matter? Like, okay, we're isolated, okay, we're not talking to people, but like, I like being by myself. Like, why does it really matter if I don't like talking to people? Why does it really matter if isolation is going up? Well, let me tell you why it matters and why it's literally crippling our mental health. And if you've watched anything or read anything lately, you know Gen Z is dealing with some of the record-breaking numbers of dealing with mental health problems. Social connection, social interaction with others can help with improve your ability to recover from stress, anxiety, and depression, promote healthy eating, physical activity and weight, improve sleep and well-being, quality of life, reduce your risk of violent suicidal behaviors, prevent death for chronic diseases. I want you guys to understand, when it comes to isolating ourselves, when it comes to being alone, the things that our brain goes through. I feel like sometimes we just think, oh, we're just not talking to people, or oh, we're just not, interacting with individuals. But it has a lot of negative effects on us because we are wired for social connection. For thousands of years, we have connected with others. For thousands of years, it was known as a thing that it's better to be together, right? You survive together, you go faster together, you grow together. And all of a sudden, we feel like isolation is good. We feel like isolation is something that we should do more and focus on yourself and be by yourself. And I like being by myself. Let me put it in perspective for you. When you go to jail, there's something that they do to you when you're in jail that's even supposed to be worse than jail. So when you go to the place that they send people that commit crimes, there's a place inside of the jail where they send people who commit crimes, and it's called solitary confinement. Solitary confinement is basically isolation. It's where they isolate you from general population. You're not around other individuals. You do not interact with anybody. You're inside of a cell by yourself. And it's not just because, oh, we're trying to get you away from other people so you don't harm other people. It literally could be you brought in something in a jail that wasn't supposed to be there. You're in solitary confinement. Why do they do this to these individuals? Because they know the effects. Our government knows the effects that isolation has on an individual. So they put people in isolation when they do bad things, when we send them to a bad place. I want you to put that in perspective for yourself. And we have this idea that, oh, we like isolation and we like being by ourselves. And no, for us, it's different. But it's not bad. I like it. You know why we think that we like it? Because of social media. Social media gives us idea that we are perceiving something as something that it's not. For example, we have a false idea of entertainment. We have a false idea of connection, and we have a false idea of interaction. I say that to say people will tell you they love comedy. People will tell you they love romance, all these other things. That girl will tell you she's a romantic, right? She will tell you all these things because she likes romance movies. Somebody will tell you they love comedy. Oh my gosh, I love comedy. I love laughing. They've never been to a comedy show, a comedy special, a comedy club. They just like watching comedy shows on Netflix. I say that to say we do not experience things, right? So we have a false idea that we like something, but we've never experienced things wholeheartedly and bodily. I say that to say, if you've ever been to a concert or anything like that, You know there's a difference from when you're at a concert than when you're listening to an artist on YouTube. When you're listening to an artist on YouTube or on your phone or in the car, yeah, it's cool. But if you've ever been to a concert, if you've ever experienced an artist, you know it's a different feeling. Like sometimes it's something that you really can't even describe in words, but it's a feeling where you're really there. You really have a connection. We have these false senses of entertainment. That's why we don't feel isolated, because what do people do? They're in the house. They might be doing their self-care. They might be doing their facial. And then what do they have? They have a TV show going on. They have something that they're watching on their phone. They have all these things that's making them not feel isolated, making them feel like they have a connection to the world when you really have no connection. Let me put in perspective for you. People still consider some individuals to be their friends and they have not seen them for 4 to 5 years. You know why they consider them to be their friends? Because they saw when they got married. They saw when they had their baby. They saw when they lost their mom. So they have a sense of connection to these individuals. Wrong, it's fake. That's not a real connection that you have with someone. Now, if this was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and someone hasn't seen someone in 5 or 4 years, you ask that person, are you still friends with them? Oh, I knew them. Nowadays, people have not seen people for 4 or 5 years and they say, I know them. Put it in perspective of one of your favorite artists. Think of a Drake, even think of a Taylor Swift, or think of these big artists, right? We know the same thing about them. We found out when Drake had his baby. We found out when Taylor started dating Travis. We find out these things about these individuals when their parents pass, when they sell their masters, all these other things. We figure out big moments in their life. So do you have a friendship with Drake? Do you have a friendship with Taylor Swift? You probably don't. But that's the same connection that you have with that person that you knew. EW, you do not OW, you do not know that person anymore, but you have a false sense of connectivity with them because you see them through social media. And I feel like people are on their phones and they're like, yeah, oh, I'm not bored. Oh, I like being in the house. Oh, I know everything that's going on. I see everything. I'm fine. I don't care what people think. I don't care about people. But yet you sit on your phone, you sit on TV, you do all these things just so you can have a feeling of connection, which is not real. And it helps you not feel isolated, even though you really are. Going into, you feeling a false sense of connection, one of the issues that it causes with friendships is that we sometimes feel like we have friends, but we're not really connecting to them. Contrary to, like I said, 30, 40 years ago, we used to have 3 places essentially. The first place is where you slept, you ate, that's your home. The second place is where you worked, your job. And the third place, we've seen it in a lot of TV shows, right? When a group of friends would just go somewhere. It was a specific place we used to always see them at, depending on the show, it differentiated the place. But that's where they connected, or it was 1 or 2 places they would go when they just connected. And there wasn't any real intent or intention of going there. It was just to see each other, connect with each other, talk. They might see other friend groups there, but that is where they went to connect and have fun. Now we barely sometimes even have 2 places, because now a lot of individuals work from home. So you mix the home with the job. And now with this whole homebody aesthetic, your form of entertainment, which you used to get from going to a third place that was outside of your work and outside of your home, is now put inside of your home. And we think that this is normal. We think that this is normal. We think that, yes, you do everything inside of your home. I eat here, I sleep here, I work here, I laugh here, I cry here. We don't understand we're literally in solitary confinement. You do everything inside of your home because of this whole homebody aesthetic. I love my home. I don't like going outside. We need to start bringing back more places. And with this whole decline of friendship, I feel like there's another reason too that goes into the whole homebody aesthetic. One of the first reasons is social media, of course, like I said, but more so the internet with these apps and things that we have. People have to understand when you become an adult, you become closer friends, tight-knit friends, more so based upon dependency. Like that was normal a while ago, to be dependent on your friends. Nowadays, everybody wants to be so independent, and apps help that. If you need someone to help you move, what do? You can go on an app and find movers. If you need a ride from the airport, what can you do? You literally can go on an app called Uber, Lyft, all these apps, and ask someone to bring you somewhere. It causes a sense of unnecessary involvement of your friends in your life. And I feel like people don't understand, like, that's what really makes friends as an adult. When you're young, it's a proximity thing, right? So you guys went to the same school, you guys are neighbors, you guys played on the same sports team. It's proximity. But as you get older and you start getting your own places and having families and all these other things, it becomes a dependency thing. Like, that's really how friends should be made, or not necessarily made, but that's how friends keep connecting with each other. But now it's seen weird to depend on your friend. Now it's seen weird to depend, honestly, on anybody. And I feel like it's because we can do everything ourselves. You can hire someone to do something for you, anything. And I feel like it sometimes also makes friendships transactional. If you need something done, even if you ask a friend to help you. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to make it seem like things aren't expensive and all these other things, but at the same time, like, if I need somebody to bring me right down the street, like, it's really a thing of people asking their friends or telling their friends, hey, I'm gonna give you money, or can I get money? Like, don't get me wrong, like I said, I get we're all going through things, but things that people were, some people were in similar financial situations 20, 30 years ago, and they still did things for their friends without it feeling like a transaction, without it necessarily being money, for the simple fact that they were friends. That's what you do with your friends. Because if you think about it, you're taking your friend down the street and you're like, hey, can you give me $10? What's the difference between you being an Uber? You get what I'm saying? Like, now if your friend asks you, can you take them every single day? All right. But if your friend just needs to ride down the street, hey, I got to pick up my car from so-and-so, or I left my car here. Okay, that's what friends do. But once we start this transaction type of thing, which, because we're so used to paying people to do everything for us, what's the difference between an Uber driver and your friend? You're probably not going to tell an Uber driver your heart, your feelings, your this. You're not probably going to connect with them that much. So why would you connect with your friend if you see them in the same light? And I feel like that is a thing that's also made us lack in friendship. And another thing is FOMO, the fear of missing out. Because when people are staying at home, right? You gotta think about it. We're staying at home, but like I said, you're watching TV, you're on your phone. It's not like you're not getting a false sense of interaction. So I say that to say, I feel like people rather see what 400 people are doing than know what 4 people are doing. Like, the way our minds are becoming engineered due to social media, we're used to grasping a lot of information at record-breaking numbers. We know more in a day than some individuals knew 300, 400 years ago in some people's lifetime. Like, if you think about it, that is crazy. Depending on, the area, stuff like that. But I say that to say, we're knowing things. We don't even understand how much information we're learning. Like, just being on social media, just scrolling. We are consuming so much information that our brains are starting to become wired to want that, to become and essentially addicted to that. So you rather sit at home and be on social media because you can know what all these celebrities are doing. You can know what your friends are doing. You can know this girl is pregnant, this girl is getting married, this guy cheated on his girlfriend. But you're just sitting with 4 people. You get what I'm saying, chilling with your friends, and y'all are somewhere. You're only gonna know what these 4 people are doing. And so it's not gonna be as much. And people don't realize that's another thing too. Some people, they like to say, oh, I like staying home because I don't like being bothered with people. No, you have a fear of missing out because subconsciously, you rather stay at home so you can know what everyone is doing, because when you're out, if you're really in the moment with people and you're not just, on your phone all the time, you're not gonna get as much information. And I feel like that also ties into the idea of a false sense of options. A lot of people feel like they have options, and I feel like it lacks the quality of friendship because individuals rather be like, you know what, she did this to me, I'm not friends with her anymore. Because you see all these people on social media, you see all these people who follow you, you follow them, all these people are friends and best friends for years. So you have a false sense that you have options, and you do, but you kind of don't necessarily. Like, I feel like nowadays, due to people not depending on people, due to people rather being at home and not really interacting with people, it makes it so easy to drop friends and feel like, well, I could find a better friend, or I could find a better person. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to stay in a friendship with somebody who's disrespecting you. I'm not telling you to stay in a friendship with somebody that doesn't value you and all these other things. But at the same time, I personally just feel like nowadays it's so easy for people to drop friendships. It's so easy for individuals to get rid of friends for the simple fact that you have this idea that you could find another one because you see this person with their friend and that person with their friend. And it loses the sense of things such as dependency. It loses the things such as working through things and building upon things. No relationship is perfect. Think about the people you love the most in your life, from your parents to your siblings to your aunts, your cousins. Like, Think about those individuals. You do not like your siblings every single day of your life. You do not even like your parents every single day in your life. You get what I'm saying? But you work through it, but you build upon things. You have memories. Nowadays, people don't want to do that with their friends. They feel like a friendship should just be easy and smooth sailing. Anytime something happens, oh, I could find a better friend. This girl, yeah, her and her best friend do this, and they do this, and they do that, and you never want to do anything with me. So I'm going to find a friend that can do something with me. You might find it, but you might not, because like I said again, it's the false sense of options. So individuals rather stay home. Individuals rather, you know, have this idea that they can have a whole bunch of friends on their phone, on social media, because like I said, you have that false sense of connection, you have that false sense of connectivity, then work through it with one or two friends. That's what a lot of people do. Like, they rather be at home. They rather cut friends off. Why? Because they know they can make millions of friends on here. And so it loses the quality of friendship. Now I get it. It's a lot of things that are going on now in society that make individuals want to stay home. I get it. Some individuals, you know, deal with things such as social anxiety, and some individuals feel like they're introverts and they rather stay at home. And like, what's the problem with staying at home? It's not necessarily a problem all the time. I just feel like don't do it excessively. But I also want to say it, think of the analogy of you breaking a leg, right? So you broke your leg, and this is thinking about like dealing with social anxiety and being an introvert. I'm not trying to undermine any kind of mental health. I'm not trying to do any of that, but I just think about it like this. A broken leg. Your doctor tells you, hey, to get your leg better, don't ever walk on it again, or start walking on it less and less and less. Your leg is probably not going to get better. But if your doctor tells you, hey, you got to start walking on it more. Hey, I know it was broken, but you know, you got to start getting on it more. You got to start. That's how your leg is going to get back to essentially getting better, right? If you're not good at a sport and you never play the sport and you never go to practice, do you feel like when you go to games, you're going to do excellent? You're probably not. So I think one thing people have to think about when it comes to this idea of feeling like social anxiety and being introverts and different things like that, you have to understand the more you go into something, the more it's going to essentially swallow you whole. The reason why it feels so easy, and let me not say feels so easy, I personally just feel like it's the idea, it's an option. You have the option of ordering your groceries. You have the option of literally calling an Uber or a Lyft and putting on there that you don't want to talk. Like, that's literally an option nowadays. So it's easier to have social anxiety. It's easy. Like, I feel like our society is actually pushing social anxiety. Our society is actually pushing people to be introverts because it makes it so much easier now. And so, of course, if you already have a form of social anxiety, you have a form of being an introvert, of course, it's going to make you become that more and more and more if you don't go outside. Like, people need to understand, just because you have social anxiety doesn't mean that you should not go outside at all. But that's what people do. They say they have social anxiety and all these other things, which I'm not trying to diminish. I'm not trying to act like it's not real. But I just want you to think of that analogy of breaking your leg, playing in a game, right? You're not going to be, so when it finally is time for you to go outside, you know what you're going to do? You're going to wire your brain to confirm it for you, because when you go outside, you're going to feel so much anxiety. When you finally do go outside, you're like, see, I knew it. I know I have social anxiety. That's why I shouldn't be outside. Yeah, because you don't do it. You literally refrain from it as much as possible. So of course, when it finally is time for you to go outside, you're going to feel that way. Similar to if you never go to practice and then you go to a game and be like, see, I knew I was bad. Yeah, because you never went to practice. You always want to be in the house. You always want to be a homebody. So finally, when you do go outside, yeah, you are going to feel a lot of social anxiety. You are going to feel a lot of emotions, right? Because you always are doing that. And like I said before, I'm not trying to diminish it, but I just feel like in our society, it's more of an option to. 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't really an option. Like, if you wanted groceries, you had to go to the grocery store. If you wanted to laugh and go to see comedy, you had to go to a comedy show. I mean, even if you really want to go that far back, if you wanted to see any really kind of entertainment, right? You wanted to see actors and actresses, you literally had to go to a theater. Not a movie theater, a theater, and see people act on stage. I say that to say you had to experience that thing. There wasn't an option. And I feel like with the idea of options, or this false idea of options, or being able to do other things, you rather the false version. You rather the non-intimate version of it. And I just hope people see it as that. Now, I know some people are probably like, oh my gosh, well, it's expensive outside. I'm not going to act like it's not expensive outside, because it is. But I also want people to come to an understanding that you make time and you make money for the things that you want to. So there are options you can do. Like, even if you're like, okay, well, you know, even for some people, right? Even myself, I'm trying to get outside more. So one thing I do is I try to do classes at least once a week of like Pilates or bar or yoga or different things like that. Get something like a class pass, which is where you pay a low monthly subscription, and they have a lot of different things that you can do, and you could book 2-3 classes a week of doing things and just being around people, just being able to do things without doing it by myself. I have an instructor, I have people to talk to. And sometimes people don't understand, it's just being around people sometimes. Every single class, I may not talk to everybody, but I hear people laughing. I hear the music. Like, it's being around people, actually experiencing Pilates instead of watching it on my TV, which I can do, but I prefer to actually go to the class. And another thing people could do is Groupon. Me and my friends just went to go to bowling. It was 2 people for $23 or what, $25 or something like that, $12.50 a piece. Their thing, I say that to say, don't get me wrong, money is money. I'm not trying to make it seem like everybody has money just falling out their pockets, but you also have to understand, like, sometimes you do have money for things, and yes, you may have to schedule it, and yes, you may have to budget a little bit, but not like that, but like that. People rather stay at home and drink a bottle. People rather, how many times a week did you get a coffee? Like, there's things that you can be like, you know what? Instead of doing this thing, I'm gonna save a little bit of money to do this. It does not have to be every time you go outside, you spend $100, $150. Outside is even more expensive when you don't plan for it. Even instead of saying, hey, I wanna watch this movie on Netflix, let me go to the movies and watch it on $5 Tuesday. Like, we have to be honest with ourselves. We rather have items than we rather consume things than consume experiences. Why do you have 5 pairs of mom jeans? Why do you have 15, 20 pairs of sneakers? You know you could only wear 1 pair of sneakers at once. I say that to say we rather consume things in large amounts. Like, if you really look in your closet sometimes, if you really, just look around your house sometimes, you have a whole bunch of a product. One thing that you only could use at one time. People have 20 phone cases. Like, it's so many things that we have, and then what do we tell ourselves? Oh, well, I don't have money to do this, and I don't have money to do that. And it's like, we gotta be honest sometimes with ourselves. We sometimes have money to do what we want to do. And like I said, I do understand people go through financial hardships, and I'm not trying to tell you to break the bank, but at the same time, and I know outside is expensive, but at the same time, I feel like more people than not can budget things in ways where, even if it's doing one thing a week and spending $25 or something, you know what I'm saying, something like that, or not doing this or not doing or buying all these clothes. Like, even clothes, if you really think about it, we be buying all these clothes to go where? You don't go nowhere. You're buying all these clothes to sit in your closet. For what reason at all? You don't wear these clothes. You don't wear them. And another thing I want people to understand, I get it, like I said before, people go through things such as social anxiety and different things like that, but one thing I want people to do when they're outside is actually experience outside and limit your consumption on the phone. One thing people always say is outside isn't fun anymore. But I don't necessarily think it's the people. One thing I think it really is our phones. Because first and foremost, when you see other people on their phone, you're gonna go on your phone. And it allows us to feel forms of anxiety. Even myself, I'm not gonna take myself out of it. Like, sometimes when it's awkward and I'm in line, like I'm in a place and it's awkward, I just pull out my phone and pretend like I'm using it. Because it's like a coping mechanism, and it allows me not to actually experience something, even if it's just being in line. Like, it allows me not to experience what's really going on in the real world and focus on what's going on this phone, which isn't necessarily real. And I say that to say, when I go to the club, or not saying like, or not even a club, but I'm just thinking of a place where they have like alcohol and stuff like that. When you go outside, I don't know if you've ever been somewhere early before people start coming and stuff like that. It's usually boring. People are on their phones, people are not doing a lot, whatever the case may be. You could be at a lounge, places like that. I would say like a lounge, a club, whatever, like those type of places. But then once people start getting alcohol in them, all this other stuff, all of a sudden it's fun. Nobody's on their phone. Like, some people are, but people are having fun. I say that to say, I personally don't feel like people are less fun. Outside a lot of times feels less fun, but I feel like it's also because everyone's on their phone, so it makes everyone else on their phone. You get what I'm saying? So if you can actually start forcing yourself, hey, I'm outside, even a little bit of time you are outside. Let me force myself to actually experience outside. Let me force myself to actually experience. People use their phone even while they're driving. People literally are scrolling on their timeline while they're driving. Like, this is not an important call. This is not an emergency. You literally just aren't experienced. People don't even experience driving anymore. Like, the little experiences that we have of outside, we not even overly consume them, but we allow ourselves not even to experience it because of a phone. So that's one thing I definitely think people should stop doing. And one reason why it does feel like outside is boring, or it does lead to people not really wanting to be outside, is because it's the same thing you do. Every time you're outside, you're on your phone. So why wouldn't you stay at home, right? Why wouldn't you want to be a homebody and stay at home if you could do the same thing but cheaper? And that's one thing I want people to think about. Like, another reason why you don't like being outside is because it feels the same, because you don't even experience being outside. And that's about it. I know that was a bit much, but I say that to say I get it. Some people, you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't like where you live. I'm not saying you shouldn't like your home. I'm not saying you shouldn't, you know what I'm saying, want to do self-care, just being in your house. I'm not saying that. But all I'm saying is I want y'all really to start experiencing life, myself included. At record-breaking numbers, we are not experiencing outside. And I get there's things going on, right? I'm not trying to negate neglect inflation or any of these things that are going on, because I experienced them myself, okay? But one thing I want us to acknowledge is that we are not experiencing outside, and we could a lot more than we actually do. If you see how much money people spent during Christmas time, if you see how much did y'all see how much money people were paying for them Stanley Cups? I leave it there. You make time for money for what you want to make money for. And all I'm saying is, get outside, experience life. There's a lot of people that are alive, but we aren't living. We aren't going outside. We aren't doing things. And I feel like it just causes a confirmation in our head that outside is this and outside is that, because we don't actually experience it. And also in society, I feel like a lot of people say things such as, it's nothing to do outside, and where would I go, and da-da-da-da. I mean, look, do the same thing you do for everything else. Look on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Look on TikTok, Groupon, like I said, ClassPass. I will drop a link below for a ClassPass subscription that you can get. You can try it out free for 1 month. But we also have to understand that sometimes it's because of us there's nothing to do outside. Like, if I'm opening up a business and people are going outside on record low numbers, I'm probably not going to want to open that business. If you get them, like, a lot of time people be like, oh, well, they only have things in big cities. They sometimes, well, a lot of times only have things in big cities because, you know, that's where a lot of people are going. But also, there are people in your town that wants to do things. There are people in your city that may want to do things. But you know why they don't? Because people don't go outside. If we start going outside more and people start seeing us outside more and doing things, people will start opening more stuff. But why would you open a business if outside something to do outside and nobody's going outside? That's why everything is being built virtually. That's why they're building these virtual worlds and the Oculuses and all these different things, because they're like, nobody's going outside, so let me make fun inside. Or I should say fun inside. It's not really fun. You're not really enjoying, you don't really have no entertainment. You're not really, like, those laughs aren't real laughs. They are, but they're not. There's people out here who really think they're lover girls because they listen to Drake and they watch rom-coms. And I hate that for us. I really do. Like, I just feel like our generation is going through so much, and it makes it so much harder because we're going through everything by ourselves. Like, I feel like that's one thing the generations previous to us had, was each other. They went through, I'm not trying to, like I said, negate anything that we're going through, but other generations, the Great Depression, World War I, World War II, the Vietnam, like there's things individuals went through, the Cold War. But one thing I genuinely feel like made it easier for them was they had each other. They didn't depend on themselves. Everybody wasn't trying to be independent. Everybody wasn't trying to do everything themselves and not rely on nobody like we are now. Friendships were actually built upon dependency. You know, people had to trust other people. You know, people had to believe other people, confide. Like, now everything is me, 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 me. And we wonder why when we're sad, we're depressed. when we get anxiety, we get it to the max. Like, we get everything full throttle. It's not saying people never had depression or people never had anxiety or people never had all these mental health problems. They did, but we experience it so severely more because we're going through these things by ourselves. And it's literally deteriorating our quality of life as a whole, not just mentally, also physically. And I genuinely feel like we're gonna see it in the next 20 to 30 years. Our generation is going to start to, in my opinion, get older physically and mentally than a lot of previous generations. We're gonna start to literally deteriorate with chronic diseases and all these things. And it's starting from the root that we do not have human interaction. So like I said, I'm not saying that we shouldn't go outside. I'm not saying, no, we shouldn't always stay inside and we shouldn't like life inside of our homes. But could we please just try to go outside and experience life? Let's schedule ourselves, let's schedule our experiences and really start experiencing outside. So thank you guys so much for watching my video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me your opinion of it. I know some people are gonna agree with me, some people are gonna disagree, but that's just how I feel. So thank you so much and have a great one.